So now that I've played the previous Fallouts, I'm ready to dive deeper into Fallout 3. I'll be showing my old thoughts from the Xbox 360, and fortunately I used a white HUD then, so you'll be able to tell the difference between the footages, as my new PC footage will use the green HUD. I did not use any mods as I needed the vanilla experience, but I did have all the DLCs in my PC version. It starts with us being born, and Liam Neeson is our father. No matter what sex, no matter what race, he is our father. And the race of your father also changes based on your race, and that's pretty cool because in most games, they wouldn't take the time to make that happen. It made it really weird on my PC playthrough when I started as an Asian woman, but then later, towards the exiting of the vault, I decided to be black instead. And that made my dad's race change too, even after seeing him not be black at the vault.
Now, this is James's daughter, I presume? I can see the resemblance.
Yes. She knows what we need.
I ended up choosing to be an Asian woman. After that, you're a baby and you continue to choose stats and things about your character through books, and that's a really cool way to do it. To choose your stats based on things that are within the environment. We are born in a vault away from all the nuclear wasteland and stuff that's going on outside. We get to watch ourselves grow up and get to know the other vault members. We have a bully named Butch.
I'm hungry, and that stupid robot destroyed the cake. Give me that sweet roll you got from Old Lady Palmer. Don't you talk about my mom, you little punk.
Officer Gomez,
You're gonna be sorry,
glad
you
you could...
Butch, what are you doing? Hitting a girl, and on her birthday, for heaven's sakes.
Having fun?
Did he hurt you, honey?
We grow up and Butch continues to be a bully.
You think you're special because your daddy is the overseer?
We take tests and we see what our job will be, but it's also just another clever way to choose stats, and I really love how this is done. Though a common complaint, I imagine, would be that this takes a very long time. Well, yes, it is nice for, let's say, world building and also like some backstory. Not only does it take a very long time to get through, which will hurt people who want to do like repeat playthroughs or repeat characters, but also because it is so specific, you can't like kind of roleplay in your mind what your backstory is. You already have one, and it's this. Then one day we wake up and our dad has left the vault. The overseer, which is the leader of our vault, has sent people after us to kill me. I fight off some guys, and then Butch, of all people, asks for my help. His mom is being attacked by rad roaches, which are big radiated roaches, and he wants me to help save her. But also he's been a little shit my whole life, and his mother did nothing to stop it, and he is garbage, and he's all talk tough but isn't. Why would I help him? I'm sure that's a shitty way to look at it, but you know what? No. In fact, not only am I not gonna help him, I'm gonna make my character kill him. I'm gonna make my character really only care about themselves and survival and revenge. And so I decided to kill Butch. Turns out, he could have been a companion in the game, and maybe if he wasn't a little shit, he would have been. And I wonder if, like, had I gotten to make Butch a companion, would I feel different? Would I feel sorry for him? I don't know. But that's the cool thing about this, is, like, the replayability, right? So, like, next time I play, I can take Butch as my companion and find out. Now, the Wasteland is exactly that. It is a wasteland. A dirty, ugly, destroyed, nuked to hell wasteland. And I'm so glad it's this way. I actually came around to the charm of the isometric games, but there is nothing like an old school Bethesda world to run around in. We also got new monsters and such now that we're on the east coast of the US. And yes, as a Bethesda game, it sure comes with bugs. If it isn't crashing, it is glitching. But I really do love me a fully explorable 3D world. The gameplay isn't turn-based anymore, but VATS still exists, and I like this too. Plus, you get your own house, and I love that. Visual, presentation, and combat-wise, I honestly prefer this to classic Fallout. Music, story, writing, and difficulty balancing wise, I definitely like the old Fallout games. We find our first town called Megaton. Outside Megaton is a beggar who asks for water. Now you don't get any benefit for giving him water. So after I gave him water a couple times, I stopped, and it turns out if you stop and he doesn't get water, he dies, which is an interesting consequence of my action. However, my character is more about the survival of herself and not about helping every person who asks her. I feel like she'd be the kind of person to be like, gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet, or some other saying like that. So while a lot of things are very similar to how the Elder Scrolls works, some things are not. For example, how you level up. In Elder Scrolls, you level up based on how much you do a specific thing. In Fallout, it's all about XP, and honestly, I really like both ways, so I don't really have a problem with this. Another thing is the VATS system, which allows you to freeze time and decide where you will aim and what percentage you have. You can only do this by how many action points you have, which slowly regenerate over time. That way, it keeps you from abusing it too much. You can kind of still abuse it, but it keeps you from abusing it too much. Limb damage happens to the enemy, but it also applies to you. Not only do you have to heal yourself, but sometimes you gotta heal your limbs as well. About that limb damage, in older Fallouts, you would use a doctor's bag to heal your hurt limbs, and the stim pack for overall health. In Fallout 3, many things like that have been simplified or stripped away. Now you use a stim pack to heal limbs and a stim pack to heal health. A lot of skills are gone as well, and charisma doesn't matter worth a shit in this game. Speech does, but not as much, as many of the times you can pass speech checks if you have a relevant stat high enough for the situation. Another change is that weapon and armor now have durability. They did it in previous games, but now you have to upkeep them, either with a shop vendor, or if you have items of the same kind, you can combine them for more quality. I think I prefer no durability, but I don't totally hate this, I just wish it went down slower. Anyway, Megaton is a town literally built around a bomb, and even has a cult following. And this cult is one of the only religions that doesn't seem to exist around hating a group of people or forcing people into the religion. I can just ask questions about it and walk away without them ever judging me or trying to convert me, and it's fucking great. They don't seem to hurt anybody. Editing Michael here. Actually, they are getting their followers radiated by standing by a bomb, so never fucking mind. But hey, at least the members are only hurting themselves and not others. Unless there's something else I don't know about. On our quest from our dad, we meet a man named Moriarty. He tells us that our dad was actually out of the vault for a while and lied about me being born there. Now, whether that's the truth or not, we don't really know. I mean, Moriarty has servants, Moriarty yells at sex workers, Moriarty hires us to kill for information. So is he like the most trustworthy guy? Not really, but we don't know. Fallout 3 can also bug out with some outfits. There was a time I was almost invisible. Anyway, we meet Nova, the local sex worker, and Gob, who is a ghoul being a person who looks kind of like a zombie but is still intellectual like a human, but they're treated poorly, and he seems happy that we treat him nice. We also meet Mr. Burke. This dude works for a rich dude and he wants us to blow up the bomb that's in the middle of the city. I then tell the sheriff what Burke wants, and I assumed this was going to go over differently, but it didn't, and I didn't get to the draw quick enough to save the sheriff.
I'm placing you under arrest, Burke, at least until I figure out what the hell's going on around here.
And I'm afraid I won't be able to oblige your request, Sheriff. I have pressing matters to attend to. Now, step aside.
This isn't open to discussion. You're coming with me.
Why do you knuckle-draggers always insist on doing things the hard way? Very well, Sheriff. Lead the way.
Okay, so I tried to do an evil run where I blew up Megaton for them, and I did it. I was successful, but Jesus Christ, I felt so bad and I could not continue that run. Maybe if I didn't know the people of Megaton beforehand, but after meeting them all, you feel like just such an ass. On my PC run though, I disarmed the bomb, which is how you get a house. Moriarty eventually gives us some information that our dad went to find a radio host named Three Dog. So off we go to find him. First, some vampire cannibal dudes. Now this got me thinking, an absolute starvation, is cannibalism okay? I know, weird thought, hear me out. Of course, in my head I said I would never do that. It's inhumane, it's disgusting, it's terrible to do to someone. But then again, I've never been so hungry I had to think about resorting to such measures. So that being said, should I give these vampire cannibal guys a break? I mean, this is the apocalypse. Of course, what they're doing is bad, but under these circumstances, how bad is it? Well, the thing is they also have food. They just eat humans because they want to, so obviously it's just straight up bad in my opinion. And their leader Vance is suggesting we give them human blood to wean them off the flesh, like some sort of rehabilitation. Human blood is for sure not needed either. These guys don't need this. They're not real vampires. They just want this. Anyway, I'm not putting up with that. So I decided to kill these vampire cannibal weebs. And the biggest deciding factor is Vance had this cool ass sword. It has like fire and it's called shish kebab. And well, it turned out I wasn't tough enough and they kicked my ass. But that is okay. I like that. I like that I can't just win every fight in any order. So I left a while, I did some side shit, I came back, and then I killed all of them and got my precious sword. My fight against Vance was far easier on the PC as I fought him at a much higher level. So off we go to see Three Dog, and along the way we meet the Brotherhood of Steel, and they wear power armor, and they patrol the wasteland killing super mutants. Also, they have a far bigger presence here than in the game literally called Brotherhood of Steel. Like, you can actually see these guys, and work with them, and you help them kill super mutants. A note about the super mutants of Fallout 3, they are not the same ones as the Fallout 1 super mutants. Those super mutants were intelligent and followed by a villain named the Master. These super mutants were born in a lab and are dumb as bricks, basically like a troll or an ogre or something. Specifically born in Vault 87, and they kidnap people to try to use a different strand of FEV to turn them into super mutants due to infertility. Another big difference with these ones is if they live long enough, they can become huge, bulking, house-sized mutant behemoths. There is also the absolute creepiest enemy, the Centaur. These mutant monstrosities are the stuff of nightmares, and they're super fucking gross to look at. There's also a super mutant behemoth, which is just a giant-ass super mutant, and it had me shitting bricks. I was so lucky to have teammates, as I don't know if I ran into him at my low level if I'd be able to take him. On the PC, I fought him with the Gauss rifle, and I could knock him on his ass. Now at last we meet the radio station host Three Dog on our way to look for our father. He's running a radio station, as I said, and there's a few different radio stations. The other really big one is run by the Enclave. The Enclave are the last remnants of the American government. and they have robots fly around and spread propaganda. The Enclave in this version runs a bit different than in 2. In 2, only the Enclave were true Americans, and all others must be destroyed. However, in 3, it seems like they've tried to become slightly more agreeable, but not by much. Now it's all humans in America are true Americans, but ghouls and mutants, they are not Americans and need to be destroyed. In Three Dog, he's the people station, the speaker of truth. Three Dog pulls up Princess Peach and tells us that our dad isn't here, he's at some other castle. Our search for our dad leads us to Vault 112, where the members of the vault are asleep in some sort of virtual reality thing. We decide to enter the virtual world, and once inside, it's black and white and has this really sitcom-y feel. Almost like what WandaVision did, but way before WandaVision. There's a girl named Betty who's actually an old gross scientist man in this real world. And the fact that he chose a little girl is super gross and creepy to me. Him being a girl, absolutely no issue. It's the fact that he chose to be a child and a girl that makes me dislike this dude.
Perhaps not the most inventive approach, but persuasion can be quite powerful. Well done.
Now she forces us to do things to upset the residents for her amusement. These are the residents that are stuck in here and they can't wake up. Here as Betty, he's basically a god, and they are his playthings for his entertainment. But one lady tells us there might be a failsafe. You also just can't attack Betty. I tried, but she exploded me.
You can't do that here. And now you have to pay.
Eventually I figure out the failsafe and execute it. This causes soldiers to appear and kill the residents, leaving Betty in her universe alone. Like a purgatory with no one else, forever paying for her sins till death. Never to hear another person or see one, doomed to be alone. Also, our dad was in that world and he was a dog. He is now out and he immediately wants to go somewhere else. Someplace called Rivet City to find something called a Gek. I was gonna help him, but then I got sidetracked by a DLC quest. Specifically, I got abducted by aliens, which was different. It also being one of my least favorite things. Well, yes, I did enjoy the weapons and the new characters. The game kind of stopped being Fallout and it just became more of a 3 to 4 hour space first-person shooter. No trading, no side quests, no anything much really but shooting. Also, it being a Bethesda game did make it kind of buggy. It made it buggy on the PC version too, and like I said, I really don't like Mothership Zeta. It's not canon in my head canon. It's just kind of a silly first-person shooter. There is some cool elements, like working with people from different time periods and sort of spaceship combat, but bad. But for the most part, it's just shooting aliens, who I liked in 1 as an Easter egg, but as a 4-hour DLC in 3, I fucking hate it. But yes, these 60s style aliens are really cool. I'd rather have it be its own game though, not Fallout. I will say, at least the weapons you get are amazing, even if they have the aim of stormtroopers sometimes. Right after getting back, I was almost immediately attacked by Deathclaws and far more vicious monsters. I had been in space so long, leveling up through so much fighting, that all the enemies down here on Earth leveled up and were far stronger as well. So we go help our dad with this thing. It turns out him and other scientists were working on something called Project Purity, and that it was true that our father did have a life outside the vault. Project Purity is basically a large pump that will give many people clean drinking water. Unfortunately, we meet our main villain, the Colonel. He works for the Enclave and decides the Enclave is taking over our dad's project. Our dad then commits suicide to save Project Purity and tells us to escape. We then try to escape while battling the Enclave, and fighting them for a reasonable time is actually fun, not the multi-hour alien DLC thing. Now we end up escaping and we end up joining the Brotherhood of Steel so that we have a safe place to be from the Enclave. This Brotherhood of Steel is wildly different from the others. It's led by a man named Lyons, and he uses his group more like a wasteland police force and less like a power-hungry group for technology. This has led him to have many outcasts who don't follow him, as he's so far away from what the Brotherhood was designed to be. We get power armor and they send us on a mission. Unfortunately, we get captured by who else? The Colonel. He is somehow alive after what happened despite our father being dead. He interrogates us, but then the President calls him off. What follows is a back and forth of men not knowing if they should attack or not, as well as some President bots fighting some of the Colonel's men. We then see the President, and it turns out he's a robot. He tells us of his plan and asks us to place something in Project Purity. What he gives us is not harmful to humans, but it will kill ghouls and super mutants who drink the water. But I can't do that. I mean, the game gives you the option, but in my opinion, the other species deserve to live just as much as we do. On top of that, ghouls and super mutants are capable of intelligent thought. Also, I haven't mentioned I have a super mutant buddy. I'll be bringing him up soon enough. You have to beat him through logic trickery and make him realize the error of his ways, which is either lazy writing to do a second time, or a clever callback to Fallout 1. You decide. So I said I was going to talk about my super mutant friend, and I am. We enter a lab with a whole bunch of experiments, and this guy named Fox is one of them. He agrees to help us get the Gek, which we needed for the water purifier. And getting the Gek again is either lazy writing to do it second time, or a clever callback to Fallout 2. You decide. He's also capable of intelligent communication, and he is sweet. He leaves to go be free and explore the world. But on our way escaping from the President, he shows up to rescue us and repay us for letting him out of the lab. Fox then becomes our friend and follower, and not only is he great as a follower, right? But he's a badass fighter. He might be even stronger than my character, I'm not sure. He's also huge. Being just massive in buildings and his running makes me laugh.
We should be mindful.
It's also super funny when he ruins cutscenes by being so fucking big. The Brotherhood of Steel decides to put a stop to the Enclave, so they prepare for battle and prepare to unleash their robot, a giant named Liberty Prime. And just the fucking political shit Liberty Prime says while blowing people up, it just got me cracking up.
Democracy will never be defeated. Democracy is non-negotiable. Democracy is truth. Communism is death.
Fox also helps a lot in this battle, but at some point his gun became like a thing of its own, starts flying around and fighting by itself. Oh, I guess I should mention. It's not supposed to be doing that. It's a Bethesda thing, just a bug. Fox at some point gets his gun back and we storm into Project Purity. We then have to fight the Colonel to the death. Colonel Autumn is the most pathetic final boss of the mainline Fallouts I've played so far. Here is the whole fight scene. After that, we have to choose who goes inside to start the water purifier. And while this doesn't sound hard, it is, because during the fight, the damage to the water purifier is so bad that radiation inside is really bad, and going in is a death sentence. So I chose Fox to go in because he was immune to radiation previously. But it turns out if you do that, yes, he does succeed, but he dies. And I don't want that. I did it because I thought he wouldn't die. So I reloaded my save and I decided I will kill myself then. So then I went in and I died. So the game would have ended with that. But with the DLC Broken Steel, it lets you wake up not dead. The DLC lets you continue the game and add some quality of life stuff. Water is now being delivered to the wasteland and the Enclave must be destroyed. The pros of this DLC for me was feeling like a member of the Brotherhood. I even had my own Brotherhood team, kind of. And the cons for me were Liberty Prime dying. That sucked. I found fighting the Enclave kind of boring. There was no final boss. The ending was watching an orbital strike, which I guess was fine, but I like Fallout 1 and 2's ending just far better. Also, the game kept crashing or freezing up when I was in VATS, making me just kind of stand around like an idiot and get shot. So letting me continue the story and adding some quality of life things makes it worth it, but I didn't enjoy the story of his DLC, which can be summed up as find and kill the Enclave. The Operation Anchorage DLC I didn't hate as much as Mothership Zeta. Yeah, it's still a first-person shooter, but there are breaks in between and it still feels like Fallout. It's a virtual simulation of the war against China, and even has pre-war armors and outfits and a final boss, plus the amount of goodies you get makes it so worth it. The downside is you have to work with Brotherhood outcasts who are dickholes, but the plus side is you can kill them after. Before we go into my top 2 favorite DLCs of this game, let's talk some side content. There are hero vigilantes called Regulators that hunt criminals and you can join them. You can attack and slaughter Mr. Burke's home of Tenpenny Tower and kill Mr. Tenpenny. You can save some children from slavers and kill a bunch of slavers, and I almost forgot that there's this whole fort of children in this main story, and this fort of children, they kick out the kids as they grow up, and then the adults are stupid and they want to go to Big Town, but there's a whole bunch of little fucking kids. I actually don't like this at all. I probably purposely blocked all this from my mind. Let's actually not talk about this. I also make sure some shits don't find an android, and I visit a ghoul underground city. And I spend a ton of time with Moria, who I thought was really annoying at first, but I've actually grown to really like her as she's the closest to a friend I have other than Fox. There are also some random encounters, but the most interesting to me during my playthrough was Enclave troopers helicoptering in to fight me. One of the best side quests to me though was the Oasis. In this quest you find an area with trees and grass and such. A nice, beautiful area with some crazy religious people, and they want you to talk to their god. Upon doing so, you learn it's Harold from the previous Fallouts, and that little tree branch he had growing out of his head has really kind of swallowed him, and he is mostly tree now.
They listen when I talk, but they don't hear. You know what I mean? Neither have I. Well, I mean, I talked to Herbert, but he never really says anything back. Do you, Herbert? He kept growing around me. Maybe for calling him Herbert all the time. His name's really Bob. I think it's funny when I call him Herbert, though. I had you brought in here to ask a very simple favor. Would you please kill me?
So even after all that, his people don't listen to him and all do their stupid interpretations. It reminds me of, let's just say, some people. So yeah, I'm not gonna do either of that, I'm just gonna take out Harold. Now you can take him out here, but it's very painful for him and makes me feel super shitty, so I never do it. I mean, I did it here for the footage, but I mean, outside of getting the footage, this is not a thing I want to do. Now what you really do is destroy the heart, and Harold ends up dying peacefully. And one of the religious dudes actually understands, which was not on my bingo cards. Alright, so let's actually get into those 2 DLCs I was talking about. So the first DLC is called Far Harbor. A woman pays you to find and bring back her daughter Nadine. So you get on a boat with a sketchy guy and he takes you there. And it's its own little map of swampland and a broken down carnival. And it has unique enemies too, like guy who you know drinks Mountain Dew and chews tobacco. And that one guy from the Goonies who says, "Hey you guys." If you aren't an energy weapons guy, then this place has unique shit for you. If you are an energy weapons guy, then it sucks to be you, I guess. And I happened to be an energy weapons guy. Also, in previous Fallouts, you didn't get energy weapons until late to game. In Fallout 3, you can get some of them early game. The starter ones just aren't as good as ones you can get later on. And I actually like that better because in old Fallouts I would usually have to upgrade one set of weapons that weren't energy because I wouldn't have anything else until later. Also, skills in Fallout are capped at 100, and I feel like this makes more sense as old Fallout had them capped at 200 or 300, and that was just bizarre. Anyway, you meet a ghoul named Desmond, and you help him fight through waves of tribal people trying to kill him. He then acts like an asshole to you, and then hires you to go join the tribals to find out why they want him dead. So you do, and that involves you going on a trippy spirit quest and seeing people who you care about, and I like that Moria is here. To think that I didn't like her previously and now I'm actually happy to see her here. And then we find Nadine, and she says she doesn't want to go back until she has something worth money, so this trip isn't a waste. She does tell us though how to find the leader of a cult, and when we do, we see it's a hologram of a brain who is leading, so we tell Desmond and then he's just a dick to us for telling him and not just going to deal with things, which one could argue was the game telling me to just think for myself. But I was. The amount of quests I've ended early by killing someone in-game is a large number, so I was just trying to get the full experience. And Desmond was an ass about it. And to join these tribals, I got my fucking head cut open. And he has the gall to treat me like an asshole still after everything I fucking sacrificed for his stupidity. Come to find out, this fucking brain was his arch nemesis, and I guess it killed his dogs, which I don't like the needless killing of dogs, so I'm gonna join Desmond's side for now. So we go in and the brain asks me not to kill it, and in return it will give me vague rewards. And I'm not even gonna bother with vague rewards. You're gonna tell me what the fuck you're gonna give me. Otherwise, no. So I kill it. And then I decide to kill Desmond too, because he was just being too fucking rude. Nadine and I go to leave, and it turns out she has information for me. Some baffling shit, really.
Totally unrelated hint. I'm in charge of his boat now. Yeah, looks like it. When the tribals would send someone to the swamp, he'd be waiting around to nab 'em when the Pungaseeds gassed 'em. He'd do his amateur surgery for the tribals and let us wander back, all in exchange for punga fruit to trade. Sweet little deal. Anyway, I figured you'd want a shot at some revenge, so I...
Well, if it isn't my... Why, when you were under, you should have heard some of the things that came out of your mouth. But I suppose you're more interested in what came out of your... Why do we do anything? You travel the world, kill people, take trophies at it. The only difference is that my trophies are somewhat more medical in nature. Oh, and to... But I suppose it's time that came to an end. Found... you.
and he would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for us meddling kids. My least favorite part of this DLC was I couldn't bring companions. My favorite part was seeing something new. Even though I wasn't really too big into most of it, I just don't like swamps and swamp shit, or swamp people usually. I neither like or dislike this DLC. It's just kind of meh to me. I heard it was hard, so it was one of the last DLCs I did, and it wasn't too bad at my level, but I'm just warning you, I've heard it's hard, so don't go into it at low levels. For me, I just noticed I had to heal more than usual. Our last DLC is The Pit. There's a place called Paradise Falls that captures and sells slaves. This is where I met those fucking children because they were selling slave children. Anyway, if you're evil, you can actually capture your own slaves and own your own slaves. Like Fallout 3 really lets you get really fucking evil, far more evil than I'm comfortable with, even if it is pretend. I know these aren't real people, but it still makes me feel bad if I'm bad to them. Getting Megaton footage was hard enough. Anyway, a place like Paradise Falls needs somewhere to sell slaves too, right? And that's where The Pit comes in. It's called The Pit both because it fucking sucks there and because it's Pittsburgh. And that's redundant, I know, because both mean it sucks. Anyway, we team up with a piece of shit named Werner, and while he is a piece of shit, the proposed actions he has mean freedom for the slaves, so he has suckered me into working with him. To do this, we need to disguise ourselves as a slave to get in, and this is a fucking stupid plan, but I'm not allowed to argue if I want to continue the DLC. Now, the pit is surrounded by a minefield, and this helps keep people in and out. Even worse is the pit is poisonous. The air, the water, all of it turns people into monsters called trogs. And even if they have kids, it happens too. This is an issue that is killing off the population of the pit, or more so just turning the population of the pit into trogs. Even some of the people that are already there aren't looking so hot. Like, this place really sucks. You could say it's the pits. And this place really sucks, but like in a good way though, like in an actually interesting, super scummy, shitty kind of way that reminds me of old Fallout writing. It's just bleak here and visually different. This place just feels awful, and the guards are very cruel to the slaves. I met a nice woman who is our contact and is a slave, and she helps me prepare for what I need to do, which is apparently to go into a death trap few people come out of and just grab some steel. Like, Jesus Christ, can I not start on a different job, like using a welder on the same spot over and over and over again all day long? That's what some of these other people are doing. This place has a working steel mill. That's why they haven't left this poisonous place, because the guy running the place sees the steel mill as an opportunity to rebuild and such. Now, to earn your freedom, you gotta fight in the arena and win 3 fights, and then you can talk to the leader. And by freedom, I don't mean you're actually free, I mean you are one of the guards now, who guard the slaves. So, to me, you're still kind of a slave, just differently. Anyway, we fight in the arena, and all I can think of while waiting is the Oblivion announcer going, "Lower the gates!" As the gates open and while you fight, they drop barrels of radiation on you to make sure the fight goes quick. A message I would tell their leader, if I could, is, "Hey fucker, you think maybe dumping huge amounts of radiated barrels on the daily might not be good for the air? I'm not saying that's the only problem with the air, but Jesus Christ, it's a start. We could stop doing that and maybe it'd become a little less poisonous air, a little less polluted, yeah?" We then get to meet their leader. His name is Asher. He used to be a Brotherhood of Steel member under Lyons, and I guess Lyons was kind of a dick and had them fucking wrecking shit for their own advantage, and Asher ended up buried in a fight, and they just presumed him dead. But he wasn't dead, and thanks to his power armor, he was presumed a god, and quickly went to leading this place and having raiders work for him and making slavery a thing and such. He even justifies it by saying they aren't slaves, they're just workers, and one day he will free them. But I ain't waiting for one day, I'm fucking here now. And I actually like his armor a lot. It's very post-apocalyptic. He starts to ask too many questions and I get nervous, and so I shoot him, and this is what I fucking meant when I say I accidentally end quests early and skip content through murder.
Is that so? My second-in-command Werner betrays me, works with slaves to escape justice, and then you magically appear among the slaves in my city. Next, you'll claim he didn't send you to steal from me. Then that means you're either a liar or a moron, and neither one is a trait I'd like to see in my army. Care to try again? Now, someone of your character would be much better off if you just... Don't let me keep you. Don't let me keep you.
And then we go to get this cure he has been working on for the Trog problem, but it turns out the cure was a baby. His baby. There is no cure yet. They were trying to figure out why Asher's baby isn't getting sick and try to extract some sort of cure from him, which means we have to kidnap a baby. So I kidnap a baby and I give it to the nice lady and she's going to take care of them and try to get the cure. And now all the slaves are free. Werner also gets me to release the Trogs on the Garge, which I think was super not necessary, but I was also not super opposed to it, and I didn't want to miss out on more story. And with this, Werner is now in charge. He didn't really care about freeing the slaves, it was just kind of his thing to get me in. What he cared about was getting revenge on Asher, because he failed to betray Asher, so Asher once made him a slave. So this was all about revenge for him. And I will let Werner be in charge, but if he crosses a line, I will fucking end him. I got no problems with that. This DLC was super cool because it was also super bleak and took place in a different area, and it's probably my favorite DLC of Fallout 3. Also, you can turn one ammo into another ammo if you use small guns. Now, personally, if I was in charge, my first step would be to shoot the mines so we can all leave the area with the poisonous air. But what about the steel mill, you ask? Well, in the words of Patrick, what if we move it from here and put it over there? And if that isn't possible, then record in some way what is needed to make a steel mill work and leave this area and find somewhere not as bad and make it there. But if Asher didn't do it, someone else will. Okay, then after you have your plans of how to make a steel mill, because you've seen a working one, gather the steel, and then blow up the mill and leave the pit. And build your new mill outside of the pit. And then instead of slavery, we have shared profits, which provides incentives. Asher could still make the most, I don't fucking care. But paid workers who work voluntarily, like he claims he wanted them to do anyway, it's a start. And as for the cure, you don't have to be in radiation to cure radiation. I'd argue it's probably best to not be in the radiation while working on a cure. Another really cool thing about Fallout 3 is many locations have real-world equivalents that you can actually visit, like the Washington Monument, or many of the subway systems. Okay, let's start to wrap this up. I want to state before I go that while I love the classic Fallout, I also love Bethesda Fallout. It feels like in the Fallout community they act like you can only love one or the other, and everything that isn't Fallout New Vegas is inferior, and they have to bring that up in every comment of every fucking thing. But you can actually love them both. That is a thing, and I do that. There are things I like more about Bethesda Fallout, and there are things I like more about classic Fallout, and I don't feel like the series died at Fallout 3. I feel like that is a stupid opinion. If anything, it was already going away from itself a bit with Tactics, and then a lot with Brotherhood of Steel. Fallout 3 is actually probably closer to the classic Fallouts than Tactics and Brotherhood of Steel. And yes, it is a bit linear, that's fair. Your roleplay options are good roleplay or far too evil roleplay. And only a few choices actually really matter. And all that is fair. That's completely valid arguments. But that doesn't make it bad. My personal preference is I enjoy the writing and storytelling of classic Fallout, and the gameplay and visuals of Bethesda Fallout, but I love them both. And I'd much rather have Bethesda own Fallout than a ton of other companies. But let's go ahead and end this video now with one last quest. A distress call led us to return to Vault 101. The Overseer is crazy, and things are getting violent and out of hand. Butch wants us to destroy the air filtration, so everyone has to leave the vault, which is some wild shit. Most people, including our childhood friend, want to be able to live in the vault, but open it from time to time for, trading purposes. And the Overseer wants it to stay closed and never open. So our childhood friend asks us to talk to the Overseer and begs us not to kill him if he won't see reason. 1, because it's her dad, and 2, because she just really doesn't want us to murder. And I tell her, yeah, I'll do my best, but no guarantees on that. Which leads to the following situation.
Done with the dust and ruins of the wasteland, are you? Given up looking for Daddy? Well, that's too bad. The previous Overseers were idiots. In a generation or two, no one will remember. But for that to happen, I deeply doubt it. Have to understand that we did that to keep them from going out, to keep them from making the same mistake.
Just heard. What's more, some of the people are saying I should be the new Overseer. It's just all so sudden. I'm sure you did everything you could to find another way. I know how stubborn he is, how stubborn he was. But you're right. I don't have time to grieve just because I lost my That makes the rest of this even harder. You saved us. But that doesn't change the fact that you killed one of us to do it. And I can't let that sort of thing stand here. I guess it's a bit familiar. You've already been forced out of the vault once before. I'm sorry. You're a hero, and you have to leave.